A mountain range older than bones. A river that's killed more people than most local wars. A road where guardrails stopped being suggestions and started being prayers. And a hollow so remote that rescue teams have a policy. If you go in alone, they wait 3 days before looking for you. Appalachia is famous for being misunderstood, but the most dangerous places in Appalachia aren't misunderstood at all. They're genuinely, specifically, statistically trying to kill you. These are the 20 most dangerous places in Appalachia, ranked, documented, and very much real. If you're into geography that makes you rethink road trips, hit subscribe. Otherwise, I'm replacing elevation maps with vibes. Number 20. The New River, West Virginia. Don't let the name fool you. The New River is one of the oldest rivers on Earth, possibly 360 million years old, which means it's had a very long time to practice being lethal. The gorge drops over 1,000 feet from rim to river. The water runs cold, fast, and full of hydraulics that don't care how good a swimmer you are. Over 60 named rapids in 14 miles. Pillow Rock alone has a recovery rate that makes experienced kayakers reconsider career choices. Between drownings, flash floods, and technical whitewater accidents, the New River kills multiple people every single year. The Park Service posts warning signs. Most visitors read them the same way they read terms and conditions, once, quickly, and without absorbing anything. The New River Gorge became a national park in 2020. More visitors followed. The body count didn't go down. Number 19. Breaks Interstate Park, Virginia/Kentucky. They call it the Grand Canyon of the South. That's not marketing. The Russell Fork River cut a canyon 1,650 feet deep through Pine Mountain, producing some of the most violent whitewater in the eastern United States. But the real danger isn't the rapids, it's the dam upstream. Flanagan Reservoir releases water on a schedule. When the gates open, the Russell Fork transforms from manageable to Class 5 death trap in under 2 hours. Kayakers time their runs to the release, miscalculate, and the river finds you before you find the exit. In 1967, a bus plunged off a road at the park. Multiple people died. The canyon isn't subtle about its intentions. Number 18. Dolly Sods Wilderness, West Virginia. This one looks safe. That's the problem. Dolly Sods sits at 4,000 feet on the Allegheny Plateau, higher than most people expect from West Virginia. The landscape looks like Canadian tundra, stunted trees, sphagnum bogs, constant wind that doesn't negotiate. Search and rescue operations here are among the most frequent in the state. GPS signals behave strangely near the bogs. Fog rolls in without warning. Temperature drops of 30 degrees in 2 hours are documented and not considered unusual. And then there's the ordnance. The U.S. Army trained here in World War II and left without picking everything up. Unexploded shells still surface after heavy rain. Park signs specifically warn hikers not to touch metal objects found on the ground. Dolly Sods is beautiful. It's also a scenic minefield with a fog machine. Number 17. Linville Gorge, North Carolina. Linville Gorge is one of the most rugged wilderness areas in the eastern United States, and one of the most consistently deadly for hikers attempting to explore it. The walls drop nearly 2,000 feet. Several marked trails end mid-cliff with no obvious way forward. The gorge has a long documented history of hikers requiring rescue, and hikers beyond it. The Linville River looks calm in places. That calm connects to Class 4 and 5 rapids that don't announce themselves. People have drowned here thinking they were in a swimming hole. Cell service is effectively zero. Rescue response times regularly exceed 6 hours. The Park Service warns that the Linville Gorge Wilderness has limited trail maintenance and visitors must have experience navigating by map and compass. The most dangerous thing about Linville Gorge isn't the terrain. It's that people look at photographs and think they're ready. Number 16. Highway 421, the Snake, Tennessee/Virginia. U.S. Route 421 through the mountains of northeastern Tennessee and southwestern Virginia isn't dangerous because of dramatic cliffs. It's dangerous because of arithmetic. The road drops thousands of feet over a short distance through dozens of tight switchbacks. Heavily loaded coal trucks use it every day. Guardrails appear and disappear like suggestions. Local truckers call certain stretches the Snake. Locals who've lived near it for decades refuse to drive it in rain or fog. Steep grade, sharp curves, blind corners, heavy commercial traffic. It's the kind of road that doesn't make national headlines because the accidents happen one at a time, not all at once. Number 15. Mount LeConte, Tennessee. Mount LeConte rises 6,593 feet in the Great Smoky Mountains. In winter, all 5 trails up can turn into an ice climbing problem without warning. The Smokies receive more precipitation than almost anywhere in the east. At LeConte's elevation, that precipitation freezes. The Alum Cave Trail's famous log steps, visited by families in sneakers, become technical ice obstacles after a single cold night. The LeConte Lodge sits at the summit. It's charming. It's regularly unreachable because the trail up became a death slide overnight. The mountain doesn't look dangerous from the visitor center parking lot. That's precisely why it keeps collecting victims. Number 14. Guyandotte River, West Virginia. The Guyandotte doesn't have the fame of the New River. That's partly why it's on this list. The narrow hollows feeding this river funnel water with terrifying speed. When it rains hard in the headwaters, communities downstream have minutes, not hours. The 2001 flooding of Mingo County killed people and destroyed hundreds of homes. Flash flood warnings along the Guyandotte watershed are among the most serious issued in the region. The hollows that define this part of Appalachia are beautiful and intimate and, during high water, essentially a pipe aimed at everything downstream. Number 13. Cumberland Gap, Kentucky/Tennessee/Virginia. Cumberland Gap sits where 3 states meet, a choke point of American history since the first settlers pushed west. The pinnacle overlook sits above it at 2,440 feet. The cliffs above the gap have claimed multiple lives from people attempting off-trail scrambles that looked manageable from the path. The sandstone crumbles. The drop is immediate. Cell service at the top is poor enough that rescue calls fail on the first several attempts. The historical weight of the place convinces people the landscape will cooperate. It does not. Number 12. Big Sandy River, Kentucky/West Virginia. The Big Sandy marks the border between Kentucky and West Virginia. It also marks the flood zone for some of the most flood-vulnerable communities in either state. Communities where Appalachia's geography and Appalachia's poverty exist in the same sentence. In February 2025, the Big Sandy watershed saw catastrophic flooding that killed more than a dozen people. It was not an anomaly. The narrow valley topography, hollows that concentrate water, steep slopes stripped by decades of surface mining, creates conditions where standard rainfall events become catastrophic, with almost no warning. The communities here are among the most economically vulnerable in the country. Flood preparation costs money. The river doesn't adjust for that. Number 11. Devil's Bathtub, Scott County, Virginia. The Devil's Bathtub has over 180,000 Instagram posts. It is not safe. Getting there requires multiple water crossings on a creek that looks playful in photos and turns into a rescue scenario after any rainfall upstream. The natural swimming hole is enclosed by rock walls with no safe exit when water rises. Multiple people have drowned here. Multiple rescues have put responders at serious risk. Scott County Emergency Services have repeatedly asked visitors to stop coming during rain events. The requests haven't changed visitor behavior because the photos are beautiful, and beautiful things are assumed to be forgiving. That assumption is one of the most dangerous things in Appalachia. The Devil's Bathtub is on this list specifically because nothing about its appearance suggests danger until the water is above your head. Number 10. Beech Fork Dam, Wayne County, West Virginia. This one doesn't appear on most dangerous places in Appalachia lists. It should. Beech Fork Dam holds back a lake in a narrow valley. Below it, the creek flows through a hollow with steep walls and no high ground for roughly 6 miles. A dam failure, which engineers classify as low probability but non-zero, would produce a wall of water with nowhere to spread. The Federal Emergency Action Plan for Beech Fork acknowledges downstream communities would have limited evacuation time. Living below an earthen dam in a hollow is one of the specific structural hazards of Appalachian geography that nobody talks about until it's too late. Number 9. The Buffalo Creek Hollow, Logan County, West Virginia. February 26, 1972. A coal slurry impoundment dam failed on Buffalo Creek. Within minutes, a 30-foot wall of black water and coal waste was moving at 30 miles per hour through a hollow with vertical walls and no escape routes. 125 people died. 4,000 lost their homes. The entire disaster unfolded in less than 4 hours. Buffalo Creek is the most documented example of how Appalachian hollow topography converts an industrial failure into a mass casualty event. New coal slurry impoundments still sit above communities in similar hollows throughout the region. The lesson is on record. The conditions that made it possible are still present, and this remains one of the most important, dangerous places in Appalachia to understand. Number 8. Breaks of the Sandy, Kentucky. The Breaks of the Sandy is where the Big Sandy cuts through Pine Mountain in gorges that give the water no choice but to move fast, cold, and mean. The swimming holes here are among the most visited in eastern Kentucky. They're also among the most dangerous. The current beneath the surface bears no relationship to what's visible above. Swimmers wade into apparent stillness and are pulled under by subsurface flow connecting to the next rapid downstream. Multiple drownings occur here annually. The geography is the cause and the reason it keeps happening. Number 7. Mount Mitchell, North Carolina. At 6,684 feet, Mount Mitchell is the highest peak east of the Mississippi. It is also one of the most climatically violent places in Appalachia. The summit receives over 100 inches of precipitation annually. Wind speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour have been recorded. Temperatures can drop from comfortable hiking conditions to life-threatening hypothermia in under an hour when a front moves through. The spruce fir forest near the summit is dying from acid rain and insect infestation, leaving bare ghost trees that give the summit a post-apocalyptic look that is not inaccurate. Hikers have died on Mitchell from exposure in every month of the year, including July. The summit is accessible by road, which is why people in flip-flops regularly find themselves above the tree line when the weather changes. Mount Mitchell doesn't advertise its danger. It just delivers it. Number 6. Harlan County, Kentucky. The most dangerous places in Appalachia aren't always geological. Some are structural. Harlan County has been among the most violent counties in the United States for most of the 20th and 21st centuries. Economic collapse following the decline of coal, geographic isolation, inadequate law enforcement coverage across mountainous terrain, and generational poverty created conditions where conflict resolution outside legal systems became normalized over generations. The Bloody Harlan era of labor violence in the 1930s is documented history. The structural conditions, isolation, poverty, terrain that limits both economic development and emergency response times, are not fully historical. The danger here isn't separable from the geography that shaped it, and that geography hasn't changed. Number 5. Pound Gap, Kentucky/Virginia. Pound Gap sits on the Kentucky-Virginia border at the crest of Pine Mountain. In 1862, a Confederate force massacred Union soldiers and civilians crossing it. The geography that made it a choke point then makes it one now. U.S. Route 23 through the Gap carries heavy commercial traffic through a mountain pass with severe grade changes, sharp curves, and winter icing that the road's design doesn't adequately handle. Coal trucks, the slope, the ice, and the narrow passage have produced a crash history locals treat as seasonal. The mountain doesn't distinguish between 1862 and today. It just uses what comes through. Number 4. The Gauley River, West Virginia. The Upper Gauley in September is the most concentrated whitewater danger in the eastern United States, and a strong argument for most dangerous in the Eastern Hemisphere. When Summersville Dam releases for drawdown, the Gauley drops 668 feet over 25 miles. Pillow Rock, Lost Paddle, Iron Ring, Sweets Falls, the named rapids aren't named for charm. They're named because people needed a way to identify which one nearly killed them. Between 1968 and today, the Gauley has claimed over 24 lives. Most victims were experienced. Most accidents were not the result of obvious mistakes. The margin for error on the Upper Gauley is smaller than human reaction time. Commercial rafting companies run it with guides trained specifically for this river. Those guides still have stories that don't appear in the brochures. This is one of the most dangerous places in Appalachia, full stop. Number 3. Centralia, Pennsylvania. Since 1962, a coal seam fire has been burning beneath Centralia, Pennsylvania. It has never stopped. The fire spread through underground mine networks beneath the town. The ground above became unstable. Sinkholes opened without warning. Carbon monoxide vented through cracks in the earth. In 1981, a 12-year-old nearly fell into a sinkhole that opened beneath him in his grandmother's backyard. 150 feet deep, pulled out by his cousin before it was too late. The government demolished most buildings and relocated most residents. A handful refused to leave and remain today. The fire is expected to burn for another 250 years. The ground is classified as unsafe for habitation. Centralia is a permanent, slow-motion geological emergency, a place where the danger doesn't announce itself. It just opens up beneath you without warning. It's not the most dramatic place on this list. It might be the most relentless. Number 2. The Appalachian Trail, multiple states. The Appalachian Trail runs 2,190 miles through the most dangerous places in Appalachia, and does it while being treated as accessible by people who've never slept outside. The trail crosses Mount Mitchell's weather zone, the New River watershed, the Smokies ice problem, and dozens of ridgelines where exposure and disorientation kill quietly. Between 1974 and today, over a dozen people have been murdered on the AT. Dozens more have died from exposure, falls, and medical emergencies in terrain where rescue is measured in hours, not minutes. The AT's most dangerous quality isn't any single section. It's the credibility that a well-marked trail implies. The blaze on the tree does not guarantee the mountain cooperates. In Appalachia, the trail is just a suggestion the terrain makes when it's in a good mood. Number 1. Eastern Kentucky, Flood Hollows, Pike County and beyond. The most dangerous place in Appalachia isn't a single location. It's a system. July 2022, Eastern Kentucky. At least 44 people dead. Homes swept off their foundations. People clinging to trees in the dark as water rose faster than any warning system could communicate. The most dangerous places in Appalachia were, that night, the same places people had lived their entire lives. Stripped hillsides, compacted mine spoils, narrow hollows with no room for water to spread, inadequate drainage infrastructure. The geography of eastern Kentucky's coal country converts rainfall into catastrophic flooding with a speed that flatland emergency systems don't account for. The 2022 floods were not an anomaly. The 1977 floods killed 26 people in the same region. The 1957 floods. The 2010 floods. The danger isn't episodic. It's the way the mountains work when the water has nowhere to go but through the places where people live. The most dangerous place in Appalachia is any hollow in eastern Kentucky when it rains hard enough. There are thousands of them. Most have houses in them. This isn't a scenic canyon or a burning ghost town. It's where geography, poverty, and infrastructure failure combine into something that kills people on a regular cycle, while the rest of the country looks at the photographs and calls it heartbreaking. The most dangerous place in Appalachia doesn't have a trail map. It just has an address. Thanks for watching. If this changed how you see Appalachia, or if you live somewhere on this list, and I got something wrong, tell us below. We read every single comment, and your answers shape what we cover next. If you want more geography that makes you question everything you thought you knew, subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll see you next time.